Fabulous. Well, thank you all for joining. My name is Nabil. I'm a senior technology manager with Darktrace. And I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about our approach, what we've been up to, and give you guys a quick demo of our cyber AI platform. Darktrace is a really unique company. In a matter of 6 short years, we've actually developed a company that has thousands of customers. We have offices all over the globe and over 1,000 employees. And in terms of what Darktrace does with cyber AI, whether that's validation from analysts or awards that we win, we actually take a very unique approach to cybersecurity. And it's quite simple. A lot of people on this show floor, they focus on one very important task, and that is, how do we keep the bad guys out? How do we configure everything right? How do we set all the right levels of permissions, credentials, and just make sure that nothing bad is able to come in? But the issue is, from data that we've seen and time again, there's this kind of belief that the bad guy will always come in. And I'd actually like to challenge the audience. Does anyone here feel confident that no bad actor will ever get in their network? Show of hands? No one? Okay, good. You're in the right place. And that's really the approach that works at the core of Darktrace. It's this idea that attackers will always get in. And when you have this problem of attackers always being able to bypass rules and signatures, you kind of start to analyze, why is that happening? What's causing that? And it's really simple. The idea is we're trying to defend against tomorrow's attacks with things we've seen in the past that aren't going to necessarily repeat themselves. And if you actually take the same problem and look for a solution in nature for it, we have a pretty obvious one, and that's our human immune system. The way the human body works is that it learns what's inside your body. It learns how every cell is designed. It knows the very fabric of your DNA. And when anything goes wrong that's not part of your body, the immune system is able to detect it, and it's able to respond to it. And that's essentially what we've built at Darktrace. We've taken this idea of an immune system. We've essentially captured raw network traffic at the most granular level possible, and we're able to capture and understand networks, learn from scratch every time our software is deployed what is normal for you, and very accurately we're able to then detect what is abnormal. And when we first started 6 years ago, we were only doing the detection piece, but you can see on this AI platform slide, there's actually two equal pillars on which this is built. Part of it is detection. The other part is response. And the idea is that we've had such great detection in the past where our customers were coming to us and saying, Nabil, you know, this is great. The fact that you could detect crypto mining, you detected my insider threat, that's fantastic. I necessarily don't have the time to deal with it right then and there. So if you could deal with it for me, that's a huge value add. And from then, we've just evolving the platform over and over again to detect not only physical networks, but cloud, SaaS, IoT, industrial systems, and even Office 365 email. And I'll get in a little bit into that a little deeper later. But really, the approach, wherever we're monitoring traffic, will always remain the same. We're trying to find things that don't necessarily have a rule or signature. We're learning what normal looks like, and we're able to surface anything that does not fall in the pattern of norm, wherever that may lie in a network. In terms of a few case studies I wanted to mention, this first issue I wanted to bring up was something that I'm really proud of with Darktrace. A year and a bit ago, we actually released the industry's very first network-aware email security, right? And it's really important to know, a lot of email security tools out there, they have no idea of context. They don't know what's going on in your network. They don't have any contextualization enrichment data to make their judgment calls. And what we actually saw was we were dealing with a municipality that had a very sophisticated phishing campaign. What had happened in this case was an attacker got hold of the address book of the municipality, and they had all the email addresses A to Z. And what they started doing is they started sending all these phishing emails one by one, alphabetically, starting with the letter A, going all the way to the letter Z. When that first link comes in, Darktrace immediately flags it. And you can see some of the Darktrace alerts here. It might be a little small to read in the back, but I'll just read you the from header. It says Automated VoIP MMS Messaging System. It's a pretty sophisticated phishing email to send someone. It's not a free Netflix gift card, right? But what's interesting is when Darktrace caught this email at the letter A with the very first user getting the email security they had put in place caught it at the letter R. And I don't know about you guys, but there's a lot of people I won't trust between letters A and Q. Now, if you take it a step further and you actually investigate what is inside this phishing link, what happens if we look inside of it? This is where they get redirected to. Now, you could do all the security training you want. This is incredibly convincing. And it's very easy for someone to look at this and say, oh, it's just Outlook, let me put in my password, right? But let's take it a step further. What happens if we actually analyze the URL of this actual phishing link? Let's compare it to open source intelligence. What do we find? Nothing. There's absolutely no open source intelligence about this link. And this is the speed and scale at which attacks are happening today. It takes time for people to take links such as this one, analyze them, while they're testing, and eventually come up with an answer. And usually by then, it's too late because the users already have clicked on it. And this approach of using a behavioral model where we're essentially learning normality and flagging anything that's not part of normal is really what's enabling us to detect these types of alerts before they turn into crises. Now, another interesting point about having an email security tool that's network aware is if ever Darktrace's email security misses an email or misses a link, and that link gets clicked on by a user, and a payload starts actually behaving in your network and expanding from there, what our platform is able to do is it's able to determine this payload came from this link, from this mailbox, proactively go back and fix it and disable that link in all the other mailboxes with no human intervention. The next piece I wanted to talk about, this was a case regarding a team that was doing digital transformation. It's obviously a very big cloud conference. And in this case, it's actually really interesting because they had this sysadmin person that was doing everything by the book. They were absolutely doing everything by the book. There was nothing you could fault them on. There was just this one little issue where they would set up nightly backups and actually download those backups to their local machine. And again, having backups enabled, great practice. Downloading them to your local machine is what's going to really run up your cloud tab. And it'll cost you, in cases, tens of thousands of dollars a month if you don't catch this very, very subtle thing that is very easy to turn on or off. And this is the issue we have with cloud. Oftentimes when we had physical networks in the past, we had this preventative approach we could take. We had a preventative layer. You knew where the cables were. You knew where the servers were. You could turn things on and off. When you move to the cloud, you don't have that preventative layer anymore. So what becomes crucial is having detection and having response. And that's not to say we should just leave the floodgates open and let anyone do whatever they want and just have AI detect these things. Absolutely not. But the idea really is we could do the best jobs that we can securing our cloud infrastructure, as did the Capital One security team. They're fantastic, top-tier guys. There's really very little you could fault them on. But the issue is when you have things that bypass those measures, you need to have something in place to capture it. I did want to kind of switch gears real quick and show you guys a quick demo of what it looks like in our user interface and kind of take you guys through a quick example. So this is what our graphical user interface looks like. As I said, our system will learn from scratch every time it's installed for every network. We don't take any of the data. The data is analyzed locally in our client sites. And really, it's bespoke tailor learning for their network. So it can do things like asset classification and management, tell you how many devices you have in this network. It's 30,000 devices spread across the globe. This is a user's interface we've taken. We've scrubbed it clean, so none of the data will match. And we're really using it for demo purposes. But I wanted to show you guys a few examples of where behavioral analysis really shines. The first one I wanted to show you guys was around SaaS applications. This is a user here. His name is David Smith. You can see what desktop he's connected to. We have all the data in and out that he uses. David Smith's based in the UK. He works out of the UK office. And you can see here it says he successfully logs into Salesforce from the UK. Very normal event. He does it all the time. And Salesforce, something he uses all the time, makes sense. Now what happens is someone actually got a hold of David's credentials. And the attacker now is going to start guessing what those credentials belong to. So they guess that it might belong to Dropbox, and they fail to log in from Ecuador to Dropbox. And then they fail to log into Office 365 from Ecuador. And then eventually, they log in successfully from Salesforce from Ecuador. And at that point, Darktrace notices what this is in terms of behavior, and it starts geo-blocking each one of those events. This isn't really showing up here much. But it starts actually blocking and putting an enforced login policy globally, where it will say David Smith will only log in to Office 365 from the UK. And all the other SaaS applications that this user used, they could only log into from the UK. And that's kind of really the power of having this behavior analysis in the background. And what's great is that because it's a platform, it can essentially expand across everywhere that your digital estate goes, whether it's SaaS or whether it's email. And I can show you guys a quick example of an email alert where we have a user getting a phishing link. And email security is really interesting because there's a lot of free data open to the world that doesn't necessarily get encrypted all the time. And in this particular case, the user was Simon Hart. Simon Hart sent David a phishing link. And what I want to do is I want to go back and look through the correspondence between Simon and David over a week's period of time. And starting, October 31st, Thursday, you can see the unusualness percentage there. It says 4%, so really nothing unusual. Darktrace sees this email user and it says that this is a known correspondent. There's really nothing to alert on. There's nothing malicious, there's nothing wrong. It fits the pattern of communication. David and Simon exchange a few emails, and then you notice the unusual percentage goes from 0 to 32. And if I click on that, you'll see something really interesting. It says this is that same known correspondent, but there are a few differences this time. The email's coming at an unusual time of day. It's a bulk mailer. It's not an individual email going back and forth. And it's saying behavioral anomaly. And this is one thing I want to highlight is when you look at email security, there are a lot of tangible malicious things that's easy to catch. You can catch a link, attach an attachment, macros enabled Excel file, that's fine and well. But what if there's nothing tangible to capture? What if the third party you work with just sends you an email and says, hey, redirect that payment to this inbox? No link, no attachment. And in this particular case, Darktrace is analyzing the email content and saying this behaviorally does not fit into what Simon normally sends David. And what actually had happened was the third party was compromised, and the attacker got a hold of the email, started reading through all the previous communications, and started sending these tailored, crafted emails back to David. A few emails later, what happens? You get a phishing link. Where at this point, Darktrace is confident that the account was hijacked, and it has the phishing link there for the security team not only to analyze, but they could also investigate. Darktrace will tell them this is 92% unusual based on every link they've seen in inboxes as well as the network. And not only that, we're doing this type of analysis for every single user and every single mailbox in an organization, where I could pull out graphically every email communication back and forth, tell you which users talk to which. I have all the top scoring alerts, whether it's a phishing link, an attachment, what have you. And in terms of visibility, if you have something like a phishing attachment here, and you're wondering, Nabil, I want to know more detail. Give me more information. I want to know what that link was, what was in the attachment, what were the contents of the attachment. And we could do that. I could go to the attachment section. You can see it's an Excel file. And if I click on it, you'll see that macros are enabled, and we have the hash file for the attachment itself. And this is the level of granularity you can have when you're applying behavioral analysis. This is true anomaly detection everywhere in the network, whether that's physical network, whether that's email, whether that's SaaS and cloud. So with that, I wanted to wrap up our talk. We have a few Darktrace folks lying around the audience. If you guys have any questions, feel free to catch us. We also have a big shiny booth at the entrance, so you're more than welcome to drop by and ask any questions. Thank you very much.